All right, so I'm going to be sharing with you all the agenda for today. So this is some of the things that we're going to cover. The most important, points of this presentation and info session will be the Dream Summer overview. So you all have an understanding of what Dream Summer is, what we can offer for you all. The program layout, as well as, a little later on, what we're looking for in applications. Tips, and then ending it up with a Q&A if we didn't get to answer your lingering questions throughout the presentation. So this is what we'll cover. So just to start off with sharing a little bit about the Dream Resource Center. So in 2010, immigrant youth leaders were moved by the U.S. Senate's failure to pass the Federal Dream Act to create a way of developing future leaders in the immigrant rights movement. The result was the inaugural Dream Summer program and national fellowship that empowers immigrant youth to be the next generation of social justice leaders through leadership development, movement building, and on-the-ground experience in social justice organizations. We also strive to create a safe and healing space for immigrant youth to connect with one another and explore their identities. And lastly, we promote an intersectional, cross-racial, and multi-generational approach to social justice that addresses the needs of immigrant communities. So a little history on the DRC.
Thank you, Jessica. So Dream Summer is an annual national fellowship of the UCLA Labor Center's Dream Resource Center. Through Dream Summer, the DRC has provided over 900 fellowship opportunities to immigrant youth and allies, and has partnered with over 265 social justice organizations across the country. Dream Summer 2023 is open to both experienced social justice leaders and those who wish to begin or start in their involvement in social justice. We really want to highlight that our cohorts have always been very diverse in the experience with social justice that they carry. So please do not think that not having direct advocacy experience disqualifies you from the fellowship. And so we definitely encourage folks who this might be their first experience interacting with social justice work to apply. The fellowship is open to all immigrant youth, regardless of immigration status. And so we want to ensure that folks know that regardless of whether they have work authorizations such as TPS or DACA, they are eligible to apply and be considered for the fellowship. And applicants do not need to be students at UCLA or any college or high school to qualify for the fellowship. So a lot of the times we get kind of shared after the fact that folks didn't apply because they thought that this was only for UCLA students, but it is not. We definitely get folks and from outside of UCLA, although we get UCLA students as well. And Dream Summer fellows receive a $5,000 fellowship award, leadership and professional development training, and become part of the national alumni of now, I believe is even more larger than 900 immigrant rights leaders. And we want to remind folks that the fellowship award will be distributed after the completion of the fellowship. We recognize that this may pose a financial burden and that our core systems may not meet the current needs of our fellows. And so we definitely want to assure you all that we're working on improving those systems, but we want to be transparent as folks might want to take that into consideration should you choose to apply and be selected to be part of the cohort. Additionally, in order to process award payments, all fellows must have a valid ITIN or social security number by the time of that the offer is sent. And this is simply due to the fact that we need that in order to process folks' payments. And then application is now open and will close January 6th at noon Pacific Standard Time. So please encourage other community members that you might know to also apply. We're good.
And then to share a little bit about the program layout, as we mentioned, the application will be due January 6th of 2023 at 12 p.m. noon. Afterwards, we are accepting folks on a rolling basis from mid-February to mid-April. So, please hang in there if you don't hear back as soon as you submit your application. We are taking our time to review each and every single one application. As you all know, we want to honor the work that you put into it and making sure that we're taking our time with reviewing each application. So it takes a little bit to hear back from us after you submitted your application. Then afterwards, we will have, if you are selected for the program, we will have our opening retreat happening in on June 19th to the 22nd. And then afterwards, you have your placement at your organization on June 23rd, all the way until August 10. Afterwards, we have our closing retreat from August 11 to August 12. Another thing to know as you are considering applying to the program is that we require both opening retreat and closing retreat mandatory attendance. As of right now, we are moving forward with a hybrid opening and closing retreat. So if folks are able to make it in LA in person, we will be able to cover expenses for flights and food and meals. But if you are not able to meet to come to LA for that opening and closing retreat, you are required your virtual attendance for both of them, because we go over very detailed workshops for the program, and they're both a requirement to be able to successfully complete Dream Summer.
Thank you, Jessica. And I took over a few requirements, which the Dream Summer Fellowship does not have as many requirements, so that as many folks can benefit from applying and potentially getting a spot as the cohort. But some things to keep in mind, we do require that folks are over 18 years or older by the start of the program. And just to give folks a bit of the background, we generally admit youth applicants from ages 18 to 28, but this does not mean that folks over that age cannot apply. I mean, we highly encourage folks who do not qualify for DACA to apply. Additionally, as I've mentioned, we require that folks have an active ITIN or SSN by the time an offer letter is received. This really supports so that folks don't have to wait any longer than they already have to receive their payment. Additionally, you have to have demonstrated interest or experience working with immigrant rights movement, and then not have been an employee of the University of California within the last 2 years of the date of submission of the application, and cannot be a current employee. By current, we mean an ongoing appointment with the University of California, or plan to be employed during the Dream Summer 2023. And then being a University of California employee includes work study and working on campus. So this can include working on student stores or restaurants or coffee shops. And so this applies to all UC students, applicants, except for current UCLA students.
And then to share a little bit about who we have worked with, our alumni are changing the social and political leadership by serving in leadership roles with organizations like Community Change, Define American, Forward.us, Long Beach Forward, Mi Gente, Undocu Black Network. We have an alumni network of over 900 folks, as well as working with over 250 social justice organizations in 20 or more different states. So we worked with different organizations that do various different work, such as labor unions with the American Federation of Labor. We also work with Gender Justice LA, the Los Angeles LGBTQ Center, Equality California. We have worked with Colorado Immigrant Rights Coalition. I know we have some folks from Colorado joining us, but other placements as well. And Aliento, who we want to congratulate for Prop 308 passing in Arizona. They led extensive work in making sure that undocumented students in Arizona can now receive in-state tuition, and we have some of our fellows working on those campaigns. So really excited that Proposition 308 passed. But we have also worked with KRC, the Korean Research Center here in LA, and ALAS. So your placement at your host organization is determined and matched based on the skills and interests that you detailed in your application. So in your application, you'll see that we have different sections, and one of them is what fields are you interested in exploring, right? So some of the past projects that the fellows have worked on have been in policy research, community outreach. They have led community meetings in their own communities. Some folks are more interested in doing social media outreach or social media marketing. So they were placed in an organization where they get to explore that. but also being able to be flexible in the work and take advantage of your placement is really important. To meet your goals, but also challenge yourself once you're there. If you want to work with a different department, be open to doing that as well, because a lot of those projects are really important and help you all professionally as well.
All right, and so now to discuss some of our program's commitment and expectations so that folks can also take them into consideration as you decide if this is a good fit for you and you want to apply. The fellowship is a full-time commitment of 40 hours per week. Fellows are able to take 2 personal days off, but of course, any scheduling does require conversation with your host organization supervisor. We're pretty hands-off when it comes to your placement. And we also want to highlight that we do the best that we can to match organizations and fellows with your interests, region, goals, as well as your comfort level. There's a question on whether you want to work remote, in person, or hybrid. Although we cannot guarantee that we'll have a perfect match, we just ask your flexibility and that you're committed to working with us and with the host organizations. Additionally, as we have mentioned, there are 2 retreats that take place, one before the placement and one after your placement. Retreats are mandatory, whether you join remote or in person. And the purpose of these retreats is to provide a very unique space for folks to connect with one another, to learn about the intersectionality of immigrant issues and cover important topics before the start of your placement, such as burnout, self-advocacy, really in preparation of your placement. And then the closing retreat is the culmination of all your work, as well as an opportunity to take advantage of different workshops that are centered and led by the undocumented experience, so as independent contracting or grad school, if you choose to pursue grad school. Those tend to be the 2 very popular ones that folks really take advantage of connecting with experts that are sharing resources. So this is why it's also very important that folks attend those retreats. And then there are other expectations that we want to share to help you all decide on whether to apply for the fellowship. For expenses, retreats, flight, hotel, food for the duration of the retreats are covered. Expenses outside of those retreats are not. And we do estimate that fellows might spend anywhere between 50 to 200 during those retreats. This does not include any traveling to and from your host site from the duration of the placement. And so the DRC does not reimburse for any of those expenses, just for the retreat. The flight, hotel, and food again. And then folks are expected to be communicative with their placements. This means asking questions on projects, checking in with your supervisor, communicating any challenges or any changes to your schedule, etc. Folks are also expected to have biweekly check-ins with a Dream Summer mentor. For the past, I want to say 2 years or 3, yeah, I want to say 2 years. We've been very fortunate to be able to work with our alumni who have been able to become Dream Summer mentors, and they are with you along the way of your placement, just checking in with you as needed, and they're a resource to you. So navigating just a full-time job can be at times intimidating, especially if it's your first experience. So we definitely want to make sure that you all know that we have your back and that the Dream Summer mentors are there as a support and as a resource for you. And then the fellowship award, again, is distributed at the end. So we do ask that if you're able to budget accordingly. And we, again, recognize that that's a pretty big ask for folks.
And then to share a little bit about what we look for when we're reading applications, we definitely look for folks who have lived experience in immigration issues. So folks that are either directly impacted or come from mixed status families. That's a very important experience that we try to uplift. And we highly encourage Black, LGBTQ, non-DACA folks to apply to the program. We recognize that there's a few opportunities for folks without DACA to take advantage of, and we want to make sure that this is one of those options for you all. And we also ask folks that are flexible. We look for folks that are flexible and adaptable. As we shared, your placements may be remotely or independent. We're very hands-off once you start your actual placement, although we're always there to support you if you need it. but we don't determine your schedules, we don't determine your work plan. Your host organization does. So we ask that you're very flexible and adaptable when you receive those as well. We also look for folks that are seeking to grow personally and professionally and are willing to be challenged. As we shared, we have very candid conversations in our opening and closing retreats. So we hope that you come in with an open mind in these discussions and ready to engage. Another component is good communication skills. It's really important to us that you communicate with us. We're stationed in LA, but some fellows are definitely in other parts of the country. So it's really important that you communicate as much as you can. We also look for folks who can work efficiently, independently. Again, given that it's a virtual in-person hybrid fellowship, it's really important for us that we know that you'll be able to complete deadlines on your own, manage projects on your own, depending on your host organization. And lastly, individuals open to engage in conversations about race, class, privilege, LGBTQ+, identity, and issues impacting immigrant communities. We know that immigration is not a monolith issue. We have so many intersecting identities within, and our pathways, depend on those intersecting identities. So we try to tackle those conversations and really be open and vulnerable in opening and closing retreats. So it's important for us that folks are willing to engage in those conversations and that we see some of that in your applications.
And applications are open. So you can visit our website to open the application. You will be directed to a new site. And then you just have to, we just ask that you please read through the instructions carefully, through the application guide, through the FAQ, because a lot of the times, if you all might have a question, chances are we probably have answered it on either of those documents. But of course, you can reach out to our email if you have any questions that may be particular to you. The online application can take up to 30 to 40 minutes to complete. However, this does not include the written portion, which is 3 short essays, a letter of recommendation, and a resume. And then you will be prompted to upload all of those documents. So just ask that you ask for that letter of recommendation in a timely manner. If your recommender, some folks don't feel, I don't know if they don't feel comfortable, but they rather send the letter of recommendation directly to us, you're also able to do that. So we also will take letter recommendations via email. So you can provide our email to your recommender.
And then we wanted to talk a little bit more about the written portion of the application. So as Gabby mentioned, we have 3 short essay responses. So the first prompt A is, why are you applying to Dream Summer? How will your participation in Dream Summer align with your leadership and professional goals? So we're really looking to make sure that your goals are aligned with the Dream Summer and what we can provide for you. So it's really important that you detail that and you answer that in these questions. The next prompt B is, how have immigration issues affected you personally, your family, community, loved ones, etc.? And how have your identities impacted your life experiences and shaped who you are? Some examples that we provide include immigration, gender, class, sexual orientation, race, ethnicity, and so on. So in this prompt B, we're really looking for, your personal understanding of your experience and how that will align with Dream Summer as well. And then lastly, the last prompt that you're going to have to answer is, what is your analysis of social justice issues impacting immigrant communities beyond immigration reform? What do you view as your role in addressing these issues? Provide an example. So we're really looking for what your analysis is and, what your own analysis of immigration outside of immigration reform and how that's going to align with, again, your goals when completing the program. As we mentioned, you're going to be required to submit a resume. That just gives us an overview of the kind of experience that you have and what we can provide for you in the matching process. And then a letter of recommendation from a professor, supervisor at an organization, past employer, student organization, faith group, etc. So in letters of recommendations, we don't look for anyone with a certain title or like a dean of a school or whatnot. We're really just looking for someone that can speak on your character, on the work that you have done. Obviously not like family or friends, but someone that has worked directly with you and can share about your goals and your experience. So that's really important. Sorry about that, folks. And then lastly, we have an optional submission. So if you have any additional work that you think will help us in the matching process, if you worked with an organization doing marketing and you did a flyer for them, for example, for an event, and you want to submit that, you are welcome to submit it in this optional portion, but it's not a requirement. It just, if you feel it relates to your application and it showcases some of the goals that you want to accomplish, then please feel free to include it. We also have folks that submit artwork, which I think it's really amazing to see.
Yeah. We're very fortunate and very honored that folks share so much of themselves in the application process. And so we do have some tips regarding just that, the written portion. We want to make sure that you keep your essays short and concise. Make sure you're addressing the questions directly. Be wise about who you choose as a recommender. As Jessica mentioned, someone that really speaks to your values, to your personal and professional goals. All of that, your essay and how much you share with us, is what helps us a lot in matching with the host organization, because we have a similar process for host organizations to apply with us. And so we look at their work environment and kind of just that culture that they have and whether that will be a good match for you all. So it's really important to be intentional with the written portions. Highlight the ability to work independently. I think we've mentioned that. Of course, an expectation that we do have from host organization is that they do provide that mentorship to you all. But an expectation that they have is that you will be responsible and dependable, and that they can trust you with their projects as well. And then highlight any previous work done in immigration, or describe how Dream Summer will help you achieve your career goals. And then the last one, which is, I believe, one of the most important ones, is to not sell yourself short. You are all very much capable of doing the program and being successful at, should you choose to continue doing advocacy work after the program. So definitely don't shy away from experiences that you feel like might not be quote unquote official. All of it counts. So any translation that you've done with family members as well, or babysitting or tutoring, please take that, reflect on that and really use that to your advantage. And you all are more than capable to be able to be successful at this fellowship or any other fellowship for that matter. So please don't sell yourself short, and don't think that you're, this is the time that you should be talking about yourself, and very highly, of course. So yeah, don't sell yourself short.
Yeah, please. We want to hear about you. We want to understand how we can support you in your goals, and, hoping that we can, it's very hard to get that from an application, but share as much as you can, so we can provide that support to you all. And then just the last reminder before we head on to Q&A. January 6th is the deadline for the Dream Summer application. If you visit this link, it will take you directly to the application. If there's any updates of any kind, we typically upload it through our social media. So if you're on Facebook, it's going to be Dream Resource Center. We're mostly active on Instagram and Twitter. And then on Instagram is UCLA_DRC. And for Twitter is at dream_RC. So any updates about the application, you'll hear through there, or in the website. So again, please apply, think carefully about what you want to gain from this fellowship, and we'll be really excited to read your applications. But thank you all folks for joining us. If you all have any other questions, please feel free to ask them right now. You can either raise your hand, I believe, or ask them in the chat so we can address them. And then the best way to contact us if you do have any questions is going to be ucladreamsummer@gmail.com. But please give us 1 or 3 days to reply, because we do get a lot of emails, but we'll always reply to you as soon as we can. But that's the best email if you have any questions.
I think I see a person with their.
How many applicants are received each year? It depends on the year. We typically get from 300 to 500 applications each year. And the cohorts also depend on, funding availability of that year, but we typically accept around 60 to 70 folks in the cohort, but it depends. Any other questions for folks?
Jessica, Gabby, I'm going to mute Na Kim, who has a question.
Okay.
So Na, you should be able to talk. And I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name right.
Actually, I do not have a question so far. I don't know why I raised the hand. I'm sorry, but all the questions answered during the chat. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you. I see that we have another question though. If accepted, can we reapply multiple times, or is this a one-time opportunity for one summer? So you can reapply up to 2 times. So you're able to, like myself, I was able to do the program 2 times in a row. But you don't have to do them in a row. If you decide to apply this year, but and do the program, and next year you don't want to reapply until the year after, you can do that as well. But it's only twice that you're able to reapply to the program. Is housing provided? No, we don't provide relocation costs. We typically pair you in the state or the city that you're in. So for folks that live in Colorado, they get placed with an organization in Colorado. So that's how we typically do it as well.
And if I may add, there is a section on the application where you can detail just what the city that you'll be living for during the summer. And yeah, we typically do partner you up within a region that's like commute, where you're able to commute. Yeah, so I just wanted to add that.
Is this opportunity offered every summer? Also, is the letter of recommendation required?
So yeah, we offer this summer every summer. This is what is this? This is from 2011. So help me count the amount of Dream Summers. Is it the 11th? 12?
12 now?
Where our math is not our strong suit, but it is offered thankfully every summer for folks to take advantage of the opportunity. And typically, if you decide that maybe this is not the right time, applications will open in a very similar time period. So right when, like during Thanksgiving break, usually applications will be open.
And then Na Kim, you said you had a question, right? I'll ask you to unmute.
Okay. I'm a current MSW student now, and my concentration is actually the mental health, more micro. So if I have this specialization, so for this fellowship, is it more like a macro rather than micro?
No, if I can interject, usually for Dream Summer, this is mostly related to folks in undergraduate studies or right after high school. I think what you're looking for is more like a master, like grad school fellowship, or I believe the term is postdoctoral. That's not necessarily what we provide for a 8-week summer fellowship.
Oh, okay. This is more suitable for undergrad students? than
More
me?
suitable for the most part, right? If you're looking for something more specific towards what you're studying for, in terms of your master's degree, applying for Dream Summer is like a crap shot because as of now, we don't know which organizations we're going to be placing people with, which organizations have been approved to be placements. So it's really that's more like an up in the air type of situation.
Right. So does the Dream, like UCLA Dream Resource Center offer like programs more geared towards the master level students?
As of now, we do not provide a fellowship program specifically catered to grad schools or students in a master's program.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
No problem.
Thank you, George. And then we have a couple more questions. Is a letter of rec required? Yes, it is. So please make sure to give your recommenders plenty of time to write your letters of recommendation. Do we have orgs in Houston? Yes, we do. I don't remember the specific organizations, but we do have orgs in Houston, Texas. And we're always looking to partner with more organizations. So if you have organizations in mind that you would also like to work with, you're also able to tell us about them as well. Even if you're not accepted, can you only apply twice? No, if you're not accepted, you can reapply as many times as you would want. Just make sure that your application gets stronger each year, so you're able to participate in the program. Is this available for East Coast states like New York? Yes, it is. We have some partnerships in New York. And we are always looking for folks that are in the East Coast and outside of California as well. And then I know we have some in the Q&A. So can you describe in more detail some of the projects past fellows have completed? You mentioned social media marketing and policy research, but can you provide some more specific examples? Yes, we can. So for example, this year we had some fellows working in, if you're placed in a labor union, for example, you get to learn about labor union organizing, working in different campaigns in your host organization. We also had fellows that completed really amazing toolkits. Like for Gender Justice LA, we had 2 fellows that did 2 toolkits for their communities. One was geared on food accessibility for the Inland Empire. So they were able to create and compile resources for their organization. And then we had an disability and advocacy toolkit that our other fellow provided the organization. Other kind of projects also depend on your host organization. So it varies from organization to organization. It could be research, it could be more campaign-based. Just depends on your application and what you detailed and your goals are when you are filling it out. Did I miss any, Gabby?
I think I would just add there's some like those larger projects which Jessica mentioned are the campaigns or just working towards a toolkit, but then there's some concurrent projects that I see fellows doing a lot of the times, which is facilitating workshops. Those workshops can vary from either DACA clinics or mental health or self-care or community outreach. So those, I think just the workshops I would add as well.
Yeah, Know Your Rights workshop. I did canvassing and door knocking for my placement. It was a really great experience. I was able to distribute Know Your Rights kits in my community when I was placed in 2019. So it was a really great opportunity for me to get more involved in my placement and in my community overall. And then we also have, what are some of the skills you think fellows take away? It really does depend on your own goals and your ability to be transparent in your placements. A lot of the fellows walk away with a very deep understanding on immigration issues or campaign issues. Depending on your placement, I have folks that I learned how to write a memo in my placement. So that was a skill that I didn't have before, that I was able to gain in my second placement with the LA Mayor's office. So, different placements will allow you to explore those different skills. And it also depends on, your availability to be transparent in your host organizations and really understand that they're there to mentor you as well. So it's always important to be open as much as you can.
And I will add as well that we have a skills tracking assessment, so we can point out exactly some of the skills. So a lot of folks pointed out to just being able to do outreach. So whatever that looks like, either is phone banking or talking with community members and how to approach that. I think as well as the other main one was networking, and they really took away just being able to connect with other undocumented youth, hear from their different experiences, because although we share that this identity, there's multiple identities that we hold as well. So I think fellows really have always taken with them just that community that we're able to build with Dream Summer, as well as just connecting with folks that are experts in their field, whether it's already in our cohort, because we have fellows that are extremely skillful and talented and have a lot of experience with advocacy work, but also with their supervisor, their host organization. I think for myself, I was able to connect with the policy director where I was placed at, and she really mentored me and was an amazing person to have as now part of my network. So I think really taking advantage that you're in a unique space with folks that have been doing this for a long time. And if advocacy work is something that interests you, whether that is through policy or community organizing or marketing, social media, there's always those departments within each organization. So I think fellows really take advantage of that. One of our fellows actually from last year, they got hired. That's another component that we hope that from our fellowship, fellows continue to do that work. For some of our host organizations, they offer opportunities, some paid, some not. But for this specific fellow, they are now officially a fellow of their communication for one of our host organizations, which is IMSchool. And so we felt very excited for them.
Thank you, Gabby and Jessica. I do recognize Daniela Ramos Rodriguez having a question. They had their hand up for a while, so maybe we can unmute them.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, perfect. So, I just had like a quick question. I don't know how technical you guys are about the employment thing, because I am part of like the Dream Center at UCI, and I do get paid, but it's through a fellowship. It's not through this like actual staff or like the actual like center, if that makes sense. So would that count as like employment, because it's technically like not with like it's a fellowship, if that makes sense?
Can I ask a follow-up question, Daniela?
Yeah.
Are you so you're not part of the what's that stupid system called? I'm sorry.
UCPath?
UCPath, TRS, or anything like that?
No, it's just I don't know if you guys have heard of it, like the Dream Project Fellowship here.
No, I've definitely have not, but I think your answer to our question makes it seem like you should be fine.
Okay, yeah.
Of course, I can't provide like 100% certainty, because every year something changes within the UC system that we have to grapple with. But from my experience, I think you should be fine.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because I think I wanted to write about it, so I wasn't sure if I could or not, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and feel free to send us a follow-up email as well. But as of right now, if you're not paid through UCPath or any official University of California, payment system, you should be able to apply.
Okay, perfect. Then it should be okay. Thank you.
Of course. And then we have another question. I'm concerned that there might not be an organization close to where I live, Naples, Florida, or Providence, Rhode Island. So please don't let your location stop you from applying. We try our best to match you with an organization that is close to you, but as we mentioned, we might also have a great match outside of your location that we might be able to do a remote placement with, right? So sometimes we're able to do that as well. If the possibility arises and if it's a great match, we also are able to provide, remote. It's not a guaranteed, it may not end up working out, but it's also something that we try to do the best in the matching process as well. So don't let your location, stop you from applying. And sometimes we have random organizations in different cities that end up applying. So that also might work out as well.
I just wanted to really highlight that. I think last year we had some organizations that said, they wanted like in person, but after, we were able to kind of connect folks that might not have considered other applicants because of the region, and it ended up working out just fine. So I just really want to highlight that more organizations are now providing the opportunity to work remote, and that has been very advantageous to our community.
Mm-hmm. And then we have, when do offers letter go out? As we said, it's going to be on a rolling basis, starting mid-February. So we try to be as communicative as possible, but reading a lot of applications takes time. And we try to honor the work that you put into them as much as we can. So please bear with us during that time period after you submit your application. And then we have another question. As a first year in college, can I ask a letter of rec from a community leader I worked for 2 to 3 years? Absolutely. That would probably want to be the best recommenders that you can ask, because they worked with you for a really long time and can speak about your growth and can speak about your goals in doing this program. So please ask them. And then for the retreat, you mentioned a hybrid approach. If we don't have DACA and would have to take a flight, would you just recommend attending online to minimize any immigration risk?
So we actually had a slide as well. You can share it if you're comfortable with, Jessica. But we oftentimes, this was a question that we get a lot of the times with traveling. We recognize that traveling for our community members can pose risks, very real risks, and it's also can be very anxiety provoking. So we do leave it up to the individual. We can't provide any legal advice for folks, but we definitely provide folks with resources. I know Immigrants Rising has a guide on traveling while undocumented. And so there's a different, it's always at the discretion of the TSA agent, but folks are able to travel as long as they have either a state's driver's license or a passport as well. And this includes even with, I believe, the implementation of the Real ID. But we definitely ask folks to reach out to folks that are more qualified than us to provide any legal advice as it pertains to traveling, because everyone's situation might be very different. So whether that's your comfort level, I think it would just be a matter of checking in with yourself if it's for comfort level, if you feel okay joining in remotely, definitely okay with that. Yeah, but I do want to say that other folks have traveled and we haven't had any issues, but we can't give that advice. It will be completely up to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a very stressful and decision to make, but we provide as much information as we can. We don't provide, of course, any legal advice, but we do try to give you all as much information about traveling. So you can make that decision for yourself with as much information as you can. And then we have, can you mention any specific host organizations from the past in the Orange County, California? Not from the top of our head. As we mentioned, organizations apply every year as well. So we have very, different organizations that apply each year. But yeah, I cannot answer that question directly as of right now. There's a lot of organizations that we work with, so I don't always have, we don't always have just the names of the organization. But if you are in Orange County, we'll try to match you with an organization that is close to you or near your area that works in either advocacy or immigration related issues. Can we include more than one letter of recommendation? You can. We will only most of the
Jessica?
time. Yes.
I answered no on that one.
Oh,
I think we
actually,
should keep it at one.
yeah.
One
You're
letter of
right. You're right.
recommendation.
Scratch what I said. Yeah, just one. We had some folks that sent us more than one, but we only read one, which is what I was gonna get to. We only read one. So it's better if you only submit one. Thank you, George.
No problem.
I wanted to know if it's required to have a work permit. No, folks that don't have any work authorization or any immigration status of any sort are welcome to apply. So we encourage folks without work authorization to apply to the fellowship. And then if I complete my undergrad degree spring 2023, can I still apply for this fellowship? Yes, we don't have any degree requirements, I guess, either high school or college degree. That's not a requirement that we have, so you're welcome to apply. Will the recording be emailed? Yes, we will email you all the recording, and it will also be posted on our website, I believe, right? And then, are there any other questions that we didn't get to answer?
There's some questions on the Q&A that I was waiting for you all to answer. They seem more suited for y'all's expertise and experiences. The first one from a guest, I'm not sure if I should say people's names or not, so I'll just say from someone. Does proximity to a partner organization play a role on your acceptance?
No, it does not. So although we don't, we might not have organizations in every single, city, because that would be a lot. We always look at the, at the applicant, if they're a good fit, and if they're have shown that they will be a great fit for Dream Summer and will be part of the cohort, then we will do, we do all that we can to make sure that that fellow has a placement. Whether that means remote, I think a lot of the times that has meant it would be a remote opportunity if it's completely impossible. But I want to say that we've never had a run into an issue where like we have to turn away this applicant because we cannot find a placement. As a very, yeah.
But I will probably provide some clarification there too. As of now, we don't technically know how many organizations or placements are going to be remote, hybrid, or in person. I think the last couple of years due to the pandemic, things have been very flexible. But we are also, unless Gabby and Jessica, maybe you can provide some more insights on that, since you all are working more closely with partner organizations. But because I'm sensing more questions regarding, do you have any placements in Chicago? Do you have any placements in the San Bernardino County, right? It really depends on if organizations are able to provide opportunities and placements, or if organizations have the funding for it. If we have the funding to provide placements to different organizations, there's a lot of different pieces that we have to take into account when making placement decisions, right? So I just wanted to provide that caveat and context. I think Gabby and Jessica have done a great job in trying to find placements for those folks who really amazes us in their applications. But I also, I don't want us to say for certain 100% we will find a placement for you. When things are, still being, what's the word I'm looking for, y'all?
Uncertain?
I guess uncertain, right? We are also outreaching for host organizations at the same time, right? And so if you think you have an organization in mind, that would be great. send them that application as well. We are not, we are stronger we are stronger by helping out as much as we can too, right? So it's just not a Jessica and Gabby show for sure.
Definitely. So it just depends on different factors like George mentioned. And then we have, what opportunities are there for art major interested in artivism folks? Like, George mentioned, we still don't know our organizations that are going to be partnering with in 2023. So if there's an opportunity for folks who are interested in artivism, and we have an organization for that, it would be a great match, right? So it just depends on the organizations that we have applied and who have applied and who we can offer placements for next year. And then we have, although an applicant would want to be placed in a specific cohort from one of the four, does it really just come down to location of orgs? No. So that, your cohort is determined on the work that you are going to be doing with your organization. So that's what your cohort is being determined by. If the organization that you're placed with does work in it's a labor union, then you're going to be in a labor cohort. So it depends on your interest. We match you based on your interest. So if you're really passionate about one specific cohort or one specific field of work, you detail that in your application as much as you can, because that's how we try to do the matching as best as we can. And then what would a day in the fellowship look like? Oh, that's really hard to answer, because as we mentioned, it really does depend on your placement.
We could share yours.
Yeah, we could share like our experience, our personal experience. I worked with a small immigrant rights organization. So, and this was before the pandemic. So it was in summer of 2019. It was a 9 to 5. Yeah, right. That's 40 hours. 9 to 5. It was a 9 to 5 placement. So I would commute to my organization. And depending on the week, I think my first week was around familiarizing myself with the organization. One day I attended a community meeting and a community retreat with promotoras who are really amazing folks in the community that do outreach work and are typically older folks. So that day I was able to meet with them, attend their retreat, and support them throughout the day. And then lastly, connected with them on how we can continue to provide resources for the community that I was in, which was Boyle Heights at the time, because that's where I grew up in. So it depends on your organization. Gabby, how was your day?
Yeah, I was going to share that I think something to keep in mind with any internship or fellowship is that you also have the agency to be able to ask for to be placed in different departments. So I'm speaking from my experience. I was doing a lot of, I think it was phone banking for an event that we were holding, where we will essentially be doing signing up folks for the union that we were working with. But I was a little bit more interested on more like the policy advocacy aspect of it. So I didn't ask. I think it was like a different fellow. So good for them, because then they took us in. I wasn't really enjoying it. I think part of any internship is that you are going to be doing work that you potentially might not enjoy, and also work that you're gonna enjoy a lot of. And all of it is very helpful as you're deciding kind of what your next step will be in your professional career. So I have, there was, a lot of flyering sometimes that I would do, or like putting or calling, as well as just hosting meetings or workshops to inform potential members of like why joining a union. And at that time, like public speaking was really not my cup of tea, but it was something that I would do a lot of the time. So I didn't like it, but I also got a lot better at speaking in front of a group of people that was probably like 50 people. It was very intimidating at the time. But I felt very supported by not only the fellows that I was with, but by my direct supervisor.
Yeah. And then will the recording be available? Yes. We will try to send you all the recording as soon as it's available, and it would also be on our website. Any other last minute questions that folks have that we didn't get to answer? I see.
There is one more question in the Q&A. And yes, the recording will be available. I just saw that question in the chat box. The question is it common for fellows to have part-time jobs during the fellowship?
I go ahead, just I think you probably say the same thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's difficult to answer. We don't recommend that folks have a part-time job, but we do know that it's really difficult to go 8 weeks without any sort of compensation. We definitely recognize that. So it just really does depend on your situation, your ability, and yeah, it's a really difficult decision and question to answer. I was doing a part-time job when I was doing my fellowship. But it just depends on, but I was also very exhausted. So it's not something that I would recommend. But we do understand that it's very difficult thing to ask from folks.
I will say that any commitment that you have, should you be a part of the cohort, you have to communicate with us and the host, more importantly, the host, your host supervisor, for any scheduling. So if it conflicts and you decide that you need to keep your part-time job, that it's very important that you share that as soon as possible with us or in your application, so that we take that into consideration as we're matching. Some organizations are less likely, or was that more flexible in their work style. So I think that definitely helps us in matching, but we encourage folks to have that conversation with their direct supervisor.
Yeah, as well as for summer school, it is not recommended. You are working Monday through Friday, 40 hours a week. So that is a very huge load on its own. And, again, you are required to do those 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday. Of course, we provide those 2 days off, but that might not be enough for folks. So, that is an expectation that we have from you all, and that is something to keep in mind as you decide to apply to the program, that it is a 40-hour commitment from June 23rd to August 10, and then opening and closing retreats. Any other last minute questions? Did we answer everything? Nice. I think we answered all questions. Again, we have, if you have any other questions that we didn't answer, we have our email here that you can direct them to us as well. Well, thank y'all so much for coming in, chatting with us, and we hope to read your application after January 6th. Thank you all so much for your willingness, and we're excited. Hopefully you choose to apply.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank y'all. We appreciate you all. It's a very long info session.